we're going to try. The amp's full tilt, right? Obviously, you're not going to throw that thing away. Oh, look at that. It's smoking. Obviously, you're not going to throw this thing away because it costs too much money to do that. So you're going to take it to your local Recone guy. He's going to Recone it for you. And it froze up good. So what we're going to do here, basically, and the funny thing about it is, last time I was here, I reconed that speaker. It's brand new. I reconed it 6/20/03. So anyhow, we're going to cut this thing out now. Just going to take a utility knife, one like you'd buy at Home Depot. Oh, yeah. Usually when I get them back from the road, they're still not warm. Well, I think it'll be all right. It won't take me. I'm good at this. Yeah, I know. Actually, this looks like some of the stuff that. Yeah, it's out of there. That's actually what I call blown up in a bird's nest. You make you a nice little bird's nest out of that. Anyway, like I said, you're not going to want to throw this thing away, so we're going to clean all this. So what you want to do is then, so that you don't get anything in the gap, because that's what what it looks like. This is a triple vent, 22, 26, 15 inch. You're going to want to put some tape on here so it doesn't, because we're going to scrape, obviously we're going to clean all this old gasket off here, so we're going to put some tape in here so nothing gets in the gap. Once you do that, just take your knife. You can just go around the top here and take this gasket off. Then we're going to just take and desolder the leads on it. don't normally use solder wicks, so I don't know how. So see, now you've cleaned off all the old gasket. I do one thing on these holes, on your mounting holes, there's 8 of them. I usually tape those things up to keep the glue from running on my bench. So we don't want it to run on Dana's bench. So we'll just tape that up real quick. Okay, so at this point, we've called JBL, and we've called customer service, and we've ordered a Recone kit for this thing. And our friendly UPS man brought it to us. Came in a box that looks like this. We're going to open it up, and you're going to see there's the Recone kit. It's just got some protective material on it so it doesn't get damaged. It also comes with just a shim to center it in the gap. They used to have, when I first started reconing, because I've been reconing for about 20 years, but they had little things that looked like this that you had to put in had just put them around in the gap, but then they came up with this. So you're going to get that. You're going to get a dust cap. You're going to get 3 pieces of gasket, or 4 pieces of gasket, tube of glue, and a piece of paper that says, please read consumer warning. Do not try to do this unless you're a certified JBL tech. Otherwise, they're not going to, if anything happens, they're not going to warranty it. So we'll take the tape off. Once again, we'll blow out the gap because that's very important. You want to try to get everything out of that gap that might, because if there's any metal shavings in there, it's eventually going to short that coil out. Looks like despite everything, that's pretty clean. Then I take, you see you got your leads here. I'll take and put a piece of tape on them. Just tape them up where they'll stay out of the way. And this is very, very important. I think it's important to write I always initial it. Well, I put RC for Recone. And then today's date is what, the 27th? 8/27/04, and my initials, RB. And we'll put Full Sail on this one. A lot of people don't autograph their work. I'm not ashamed of mine, so I don't have a problem putting my name on it. Okay, at this point we're ready to actually recone it. Like I said, you get a tube of glue. This is just JBL's actually changed this glue. It's a different kind. I like it. It's just made by CP Moyen. It's RS 3087 cement. So, actually, if you get in a closed room with it and shut the door, I didn't say that, but anyway. So you're just going to go down. You're going to put you a bead on the down where your spider is going to connect to the frame. I'm going to get a pretty good bead on that. Then you're going to go up top where your compliance is going to adhere to the frame. You're going to run a bead around there. Now, usually at this point, I'm going to let that glue set for a couple of minutes just so it'll kind of get tacky before I actually drop the kit in there. Any questions? Anybody got any questions so far? Feel free to, yeah. What's that? Um, as far as just burning that one up, just overdriven. I mean, big time overdriven. I don't think you could. Well, I guess you could obviously drive one that hard and in a wedge. I mean, it happens all the time, but it's not going to jump around like that either. We actually hooked a variac to one at Shoko one time. Hooked it to an 18 and actually ran current through it, and it bounced around for quite a while, jumping. I mean, it was jumping like this high off the concrete and chipped the concrete, and it lasted about 5 or 6 minutes before the thing finally blew up. But we were just going to see what would happen. We're just going to, stress test it. So, but anyway, so we're a couple of minutes into this, and I'm just going to take my finger and spread that glue around. Then you're going to take the spacer. Drop it in. Very important step in this. Always make sure you line the leads up with the. I've done that before. Like I said, sitting 2 o'clock in the morning, reconing, and go. I have gone to the other side and go, wow. Because once you get it in there, it sticks. It's going to be pretty hard to get it out. So anyway, drop that bad boy down there. Lined up. And, ideally, this glue, probably today is a good temperature to be working with it. The colder it gets, obviously, like where I'm at in Nashville, I have to kind of watch it sometimes because we'll get days when it'll be, 50 degrees in my shop. And but it loves like the 70s and 80s is a good working temperature for it. I just always make sure that spider gets down good, because obviously that's where that's where the all your movement's going to be on that part of the cone. So I always try to make sure I get it in there really good. Looks like that tacked up pretty good. Of course, you get it all over your. And then JBL came up with a great idea, which is good, that it's just an adhesive on this gasket that just peels off. Used to, you'd have to glue it on, but they came up with the self-stick. I don't do it too much because all of our speakers mount in our boxes with clamps, but it's probably always a good idea to make sure the holes match up with your 8 holes, because a lot of people mount their speakers. They mount them using screws. Like I said, everything we have, we use mounting brackets. So it's not really that important. And actually, our guy that worked at Shoko in R&D, he always wanted those holes to be covered up because he swore up and down there was like an air gap or something, or air leak, but I never believed it. But so we get our gasket on there. And we're just going to take it, turn it upside down, let it sit there for a little bit. Okay, now, that's JBL. Now we're going to do an EV. Whole lot different. I scraped this one before you guys got here. This is a CL12V. It's what we use in the 12 AM wedge. We probably own 6 or 8,000 of them throughout the company. All right, very unique difference in this. Remember how your JBL was one piece? The EV is many pieces. You got your cone, your gasket, your dust cap, your spider, and your voice coil. So now you got to put this thing together. Now, if you talk to JBL, which really and truly I like to do these things because it's kind of like building a model. It's like building a model car or a model plane. But if you talk to EV, the reason why they do it this way, because I went to their facility, they do that because they claim that JBL stuff takes up too much room. The boxes take too much room at service centers. You can get 48 of these EV kits in that box. And when we get them, we order them. I usually order them either 3 or 4 dozen at a time. They come in a box because all the cones fit together. So it's a lot easier to store them. But I argued with them that, well, how can you say that 1,400 different knuckleheads going to put this thing together and make it work right? And so, but they'll argue with you about it. But at any rate, so see, you have your voice coil. So what you do is you have this handy little thing called a shim and a fixture. And it's just an aluminum, just a piece of aluminum with they have different sizes depending on obviously what speaker you're doing, and they have different shims. The shim is going to control how far it's going to go down and sit in the gap, the voice coil. So they have different numbers on this. Is a 9943 XX. So you just take that shim, slide it in, and what you do is that you have a piece of tape up here at the top. It's just Scotch tape, and you go around that thing 3 times, and it's only going to let it go so far. And once it hits that tape, it's going to stop, and that's where it needs to be. Then you take your spider, just put it on there, and that's basically your first stage in rebuilding the thing. Then what I usually do is I go ahead and set it down in the gap, and I take the cone and I'll go ahead and drop it in there just to kind of have a look at it and see where it all comes together, because what we're going to do is we're going to epoxy all this together. So I kind of have a look at it and go, yeah, that looks good. If it doesn't mate up down there too good, I might have to mess with it. This one's perfect. Then I just take that out. And of course they send you there's about 4 or 5 different kinds of glue, but they send the one for the spider. We're going to just run that. Run us a bead there. And glue that bad boy in. At this point, I usually take a little piece of tape and tape these leads back over here on the fixture just so they stay out of your way until you can smooth that down. You got to just kind of be careful